Ukraine has crossed a historic line. With the Sapsan Ballistic missile now in combat use, the battlefield has entered a new era. This is true, high-speed, hard-to-stop ballistic firepower, and one target now stands in the crosshairs like never before: the Kerch Bridge, Russia's main lifeline to Crimea. Ukraine brings the Sapsan Ballistic missile into battle. Kerch Bridge now under direct threat. Ukraine has officially begun using the Sapsan Operational Tactical Missile System, equipped with ballistic missiles, marking a major leap in Kyiv's long-range strike capability. President Zelensky confirmed the development, signalling a new phase of the war in which Russia's most critical strategic targets are no longer out of reach. This includes, most ominously for Moscow, the Kerch Bridge, the single most important logistical lifeline connecting Russia to occupied Crimea. There were many moments when our enemies said, "They will surely try to use the Neptune cruise missiles. Let them try," Zelensky stated. Today, Ukraine is already using cruise missiles like Neptune, Palanitsa, Flamingo, and now the ballistic missile Sapsan. I will not comment on the numbers. Our enemies do not need to know every detail. What matters is that the Neptunes are working very well. With Sapsan now active, Ukraine moves from long-range drone and cruise missile strikes into true ballistic missile warfare, a threshold that dramatically changes the balance of deep strike power. The appearance of Sapsan fundamentally alters the security equation for Russia's most sensitive infrastructure. Unlike cruise missiles and drones, ballistic missiles follow steep, high-speed trajectories that are far harder to intercept. This places the Kerch Bridge directly under a new level of threat. A successful ballistic strike on the bridge would not merely damage a symbol, it would sever Russia's main military supply artery into southern Ukraine and Crimea, with enormous operational consequences. Parallel to Ukraine's domestic missile progress, the Czech company LPP has developed a new long-range cruise missile named Narwhal. The missile is currently undergoing testing, and for the final phase of trials, it is expected to be transferred to Ukraine for real combat evaluation against Russian forces. Analysts note that Narwhal surpasses the Barracuda 500M in most core parameters, including range, guidance systems, and warhead weight. Production of the missile is planned in Poland. Ukraine had previously expressed strong interest in the Barracuda 500 as a potential replacement for Tomahawk-class long-range strike systems. Narwhal's estimated strike range reaches up to 680 kilometers, placing not only Moscow but also the Engels strategic bomber base well within reach. With a top speed of 750 kilometers per hour and a 120-kilogram warhead, Narwhal carries destructive power well beyond that of common attack drones. For comparison, a typical Shahed drone carries only a 50 to 90 kilogram warhead. Narwhal is equipped with multiple navigation layers, including standard GPS, an inertial navigation system, and a visual guidance system. This allows the missile to function even when GPS is heavily jammed by Russian electronic warfare. In practical terms, this means Russia's air defense and jamming systems are losing one of their most important protective advantages. The first combat use of Narwhal is planned for January to February 2026. Serial production is expected to begin as early as March 2026. Once deployed at scale, it would give Ukraine a second long-range precision strike tool alongside Sapsan, 1 ballistic and 1 cruise, creating a layered strike capability capable of overwhelming Russian defenses. 2 Ukrainian soldiers capture 6 Russian troops under artillery fire in the Dnipropetrovsk. 2 soldiers from the 67th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces carried out an extraordinary capture operation, taking 6 Russian soldiers prisoner in the Dnipropetrovsk region. According to the brigade, the incident occurred on December 9th during active strike and search missions near the Oleksandrivsk area, where Ukrainian forces were hunting down remaining enemy units. A video released by the brigade shows the dramatic evacuation of the 6 captured Russian troops while Russian artillery shelled the surrounding area. The 67th Brigade stated that this shelling was a deliberate attempt by Russian forces to either intimidate surrendering soldiers or eliminate them entirely in order to discourage future capitulations. Despite the heavy fire, Ukrainian soldiers completed the evacuation without abandoning the prisoners. In an official statement, the brigade praised the courage and tactical skill of their soldiers, emphasizing that they deliberately chose to confront a numerically superior enemy force. By capturing the Russian troops, they not only secured valuable prisoners for future exchanges, but also acted decisively to prevent Russian forces from killing their own captured comrades. The brigade stressed that despite relentless Russian attempts to break through Ukrainian defences, their units continue to hold their positions firmly, while pushing forward to liberate occupied Ukrainian territory. The successful capture stands as another example of Ukraine's growing battlefield control and unit-level initiative. Colonel Mudd takes over before General Winter near Pokrovsk. General Winter is approaching, but for Russian forces around Pokrovsk, the real enemy right now is Colonel Mudd. In the Ribna sector, Russian troops are already losing ground due to severe logistical failures. Deep mud has paralyzed supply routes, leaving frontline units short of food, fuel, and ammunition at the worst possible moment. Video footage widely shared online shows Russian soldiers and vehicles completely bogged down in thick, sticky mud near Pokrovsk, clearly illustrating how the Rasputitsa season is once again turning Russian logistics into a nightmare. Recent battlefield assessments confirm that Russian vehicles are increasingly immobilized by mud, forcing troops to abandon mechanized movement and continue on foot. This sudden loss of mobility has stalled Russian assaults near Ribna, despite repeated attempts to push forward. Supply columns struggle to reach forward positions, and even basic resupply has become slow, unpredictable, and dangerous. The result is growing exhaustion at the front and shrinking combat capability just as fighting intensifies. As temperatures soon drop below freezing, deeply rutted roads may harden. While this may restore limited movement for vehicles, it also brings new consequences. Frozen terrain improves visibility for Ukrainian drone crews and enhances thermal targeting at night. This shift favors precision strikes and surveillance, while Russian attackers, who rely more on mass movement in open terrain, will face rising exposure under Ukrainian observation and fire. Against this backdrop of collapsing Russian mobility, Ukrainian armoured units continue to strike with bold, close-range operations. On December 9th, a Ukrainian T-72 main battle tank from the 14th Chervona Kalina Brigade of the Azov Corps carried out a direct assault on a Russian garrison in the city of Rodinska, north of Pokrovsk. The tank advanced to point-blank distance and fired directly into a multi-story apartment building that Russian troops had been using as a defensive position. The operation was conducted by the brigade's Wolfpack Tank Company. According to the unit, the crew maneuvered close to the building, halted beside the structure itself, and opened fire at extremely close range. After the strike, Ukrainian forces confirmed that the Russian troops inside did not survive. Details of the operation were deliberately withheld for a period to protect operational security and avoid jeopardizing the mission while it remained active. What is unfolding around Pokrovsk is a convergence of three forces: collapsing Russian logistics under the weight of mud, the approaching freeze that will reshape battlefield movement and visibility, and bold Ukrainian armoured and drone operations that exploit every weakness. As Colonel Mudd gives way to General Winter, both sides face new dangers, but for Russian attackers already short on supplies and pinned down along broken roads, the coming weeks may prove especially unforgiving. Ukraine's special forces cripple Russian logistics with precision strikes in Donbass. Ukraine's Special Operations Forces have carried out a powerful series of drone strikes deep inside the temporarily occupied territories of Donbass, destroying two major Russian warehouses and dealing a heavy blow to enemy logistics. As a result of these operations, Russian forces were left without large reserves of drones and fuel, severely weakening their ability to sustain offensive actions. On the night of December 8th, Special Operations Forces units successfully struck Russian targets in the occupied areas of Donetsk and Luhansk using attack drones. In occupied Donetsk, Ukrainian drones destroyed a Russian warehouse used to store tactical reconnaissance and strike drones, along with combat components required for their operation. At the same time, in the occupied part of Luhansk region, in the village of Simekine, Ukrainian forces hit a major fuel and lubricants depot belonging to Russia's southern occupation group. The strike destroyed fuel tanks holding more than 6,000 cubic meters of fuel, cutting off a critical supply source for Russian units in the area. Ukraine's Special Operations Forces emphasize that they continue to rely on asymmetric actions to undermine the offensive capabilities of the Russian army. Rather than engaging in mass frontal assaults, these precision strikes focus on paralyzing Russian logistics, disrupting supply chains, and stripping frontline units of the resources they need to move, fight, and resupply. These attacks are part of a broader, sustained campaign. On the night of December 1st, Special Operations Forces drones struck Russian targets in both Donetsk and Luhansk regions, destroying concentration points of Russian troops and multiple ammunition depots. Earlier, on the night of November 28th, Ukrainian Special Forces hit a storage and launch area for Shahed strike drones near Cape Chowder in occupied Crimea, further degrading Russia's long-range strike capabilities. Ukrainian forces begin systematic clearing of Kupiansk after cutting the Russian supply line. After Ukrainian forces severed the Russian infiltration route into Kupiansk, assault units began a methodical clearing operation inside the town. With reinforcements unable to reach them and evacuation routes fully blocked, stranded Russian soldiers now face a grim choice between certain death and surrender. Footage and field reports confirmed that panic is spreading among the trapped units, and Ukraine estimates that roughly 60 enemy troops remain inside the urban area. Control of Kupiansk is vital for stabilizing the front line and stopping any Russian push south along the Oskil River, a move that could otherwise make Ukrainian positions east of the river untenable. The battle also carries major political weight. Vladimir Putin has already declared Kupiansk fully captured, even though reality on the ground tells a different story. If Ukrainian forces fully clear the town, it will directly shatter this narrative and deliver a powerful message ahead of any future negotiations. Ukrainian forces now maintain complete fire control over the narrow supply corridor linking Kupiansk to the Russian bridgehead north of the town. With this route neutralized, Ukraine's next objective is to eliminate the remaining Russian elements through systematic clearing, consolidate full control of the area, and eliminate any possibility of Russian expansion back across the river. Topographic conditions strongly favor Ukraine. Ukrainian units control a key hill ridge west of Kupiansk, providing excellent observation for drone operators, superior surveillance over enemy movement, and reliable fire support. At the same time, Ukrainian ground supply routes from the west remain stable and secure, allowing constant pressure on Russian positions, especially after Ukrainian forces recaptured ground on the western flank of the salient. Russian troops remaining inside the town are scattered and rely on concealment in ruins and basements, often wearing civilian clothing to avoid detection. Their strategy is to delay Ukrainian advances long enough for reinforcements to break through. At present, however, the only way Russia can attempt resupply is through drones, which are also used in desperate efforts to slow Ukrainian clearing operations before close-quarters combat finishes the job. Video from the Kupiansk area shows operators from the 138th Special Purpose Center approaching through forest belts using pickup trucks and buggies. After stopping at a safe distance from the zero line, they continue on foot under dense vegetation to avoid Russian reconnaissance drones. Once inside the outer areas of the town, they silently clear buildings one by one under drone guidance. In one operation, Ukrainian forces eliminated 2 Russian soldiers and seized phones and radios for intelligence gathering. The footage clearly demonstrates how Ukrainian special units can now infiltrate from the western forests without being detected. As Ukrainian pressure tightens, Russian soldiers increasingly find themselves suddenly surrounded. Knowing that reinforcements are not coming, many choose to surrender rather than fight to the end. In one recorded case, 2 captured Russian soldiers explained that evacuation was impossible. They exposed their position to a Ukrainian drone, which then guided them safely toward Ukrainian ground forces so they could surrender.